Thank you, Skip. Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me. And wow, first speaker of the day. Get to grab a hold of you a little bit. But Convocation, we're a group that's gathered for a special purpose, right? That's why you all are here, for a special purpose. And I'm honored to be part of it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the offer. Just a quick background. Grew up in New York County, about an hour north of New York City. My father was an attorney. He traveled into New York City every day, hour and a half on the train and back. He had train friends. These were people that my family never knew about. They were train friends. I don't know. It's a foreign concept to me. But went to the University of Richmond. Our mascot, some of you may know, is the most feared insect in the world, the spider. Right? Real scary insect. When you're on a football team, it doesn't really scare you. But met my wife there and traveled for 2 years, went to 80 colleges and universities in a 2-year span speaking to college kids. And if you think speaking here or quite frankly anywhere is tough, try getting a hold of a college kid who's just waking up at 5 p.m. You know, and you have something to say to them about academics and recruitment. And it was tough. But what I did say, the one thing that they all listened to was I was in a band in college. And in that band, we opened up for Kansas and Night Ranger. And they all two bands that are pretty much washed up. So flash forward real quick. In my mind, I had the definition of success. I worked at Booz Allen. I worked at a few other places. I was at a company where I was running the office here locally. I had a beautiful wife. My handicap was low. I bought a new car. I had a new pair of shoes. No joke, that I absolutely loved. They looked a lot like these. But I was just flying high, right? Everything was on top of the world. Here's kind of a picture says 1,000 words. Here's literally a photo of taken in that time frame. That was September of 2008. My beautiful wife, my 3 lovely kids who we just were tightly bonded together. It was awesome. And then I remember coming back from this business trip in LA where I'm meeting with people, feeling all important, right, getting things done. And I was in Dick's Sporting Goods with my daughter who was running on the treadmill. And I just did this, you know, and I felt this little lump right here. I thought, that's interesting. But I instantly got this pit in my stomach. Like something was very wrong with this lump. And I'm in healthcare. What we do is help companies get healthcare. We're a broker, we're a number of other things, but I knew that a neoplasm is not a friendly thing. So I went right to the doctor, took x-rays, PET scans, MRIs, all that stuff, and went to a couple surgeons here in the area, because I was relatively healthy otherwise, and said, what is this? And they said, well, we don't know, but let's keep track of it and find out. Keep on coming back to us in a month. You're probably fighting mono or Lyme disease or something. And okay, great. Well, I'll come back in a month. Looked just like I do right now, except for this bump on my neck right here. A month later, I could barely walk. The handicap spots that we all have next to our buildings, they weren't close enough for me. My spleen was twice the size of a normal spleen, and that hurts. There's a lot of internal pressure when your spleen is big. I had fevers, I had night sweats, I had chills, I had pneumonia, I had a cough I couldn't shake. My health went down super, super quick. I went to the urgent care facility. They weren't super helpful. So I went back to my primary care doctor. By the way, primary care doctors, you hear a lot about healthcare. They're saying it all starts with a primary care doctor. Even if we can go directly to a specialist, if you have a good relationship with your primary care doctor. Well, I walked in and her eyes lit up. And that's not a good sign when you have a doctor kind of freak out. So she said, go right to the hematologist, you know, check. This is the guy you got to see. And thankfully, my wife got me an appointment. He looked at my blood right there in his office and said, well, the 3 words that hopefully you won't ever hear, but he said, you have cancer. But he also said, I don't know what kind of cancer you have because I've never seen this. So a week later of stressing and trying to figure out and actually being separated from my family because they were all sick, but my white blood cell count was so low, I had no immune system, so I had to stay in a residence inn in the same town as my family, but be separated from my family. He called us back the next Monday, my mom came and sitting there, the 3 of us at one of those little tables, we were there, and he basically said, you have one of the rarest forms of cancer that you can possibly have. It's not leukemia, and it's not lymphoma, but it's the worst of both. And at that point in time, he said, I need you to go to Johns Hopkins Hospital right now. There's a bed waiting for you right now. Don't go home. Don't kiss your kids goodbye. Don't pack a bag. Go to Hopkins. I mean, just imagine getting that news literally right now. I mean, it was freedom. Thankfully, my mom was there and my wife, and we did. We went right there. And I remember driving up thinking, what if I don't get out of this? What if I stay in the hospital for a few days? Well, 35 days later, I finally saw the light of day again. So they basically, one person at all of Johns Hopkins, which at the time was the #1 rated cancer hospital in the country, had seen this disease before. And it was a 75-year-old woman who passed away pretty quickly afterwards. So there wasn't a lot of precedent. There wasn't a lot of take this pill, do this, go from there. But what they said is, we're going to give you the harshest chemotherapy possible, and we're going to try to just kill everything out, which is what chemo does, right? It's not a smart drug, it just kills everything out. And then we're going to give you a bone marrow transplant, because we think that's the best way to go. Well, this was, after the first round, this was me, if you can see that, you know, lost 35 pounds, you know, skinny, and it got worse than this. This is actually a good picture. But this is basically how I lived out of the hospital in a not safe environment. I had to be covered up. Flash forward a second round of chemotherapy, fevers, chills, infections, literally almost dying. That's what kills you. It's not the cancer necessarily. Oftentimes it's the treatment, because we have chemotherapy. And so the infections I got, I mean, we had surgery on my leg. There was just crazy things happening. And the hospital's not a clean place either, right? So flash forward, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, I actually got this bone marrow transplant. And just a real side, getting a bone marrow transplant is no big deal. And being on the bone marrow registry, speaking of diversity, they need diversity on the bone marrow registry. All you do is you swab your cheek, and you're on the registry. And if you're ever called to give a bone marrow transplant, give blood. Maybe a pint, maybe. So it's just like giving blood, you know, that you would at the Red Cross. But that was the same blood after they wiped my blood out, they gave me my sister's. Well, lots of uncertainty. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Lots of tests. The first test I had back said, sorry, you still have cancer in your system. So can you imagine going through $1.5 million of treatments that almost kills you, and then them saying, sorry, it didn't work? So the analogy that my doctor gave me, which gave me a ray of hope, was think of fresh cut flowers. When someone hands you fresh cut flowers, they look like they're alive. They're still alive, and we put that little stuff in there that makes them alive for a little while longer. But they've been cut off from the root. So they're not really alive, they're dead. They just look alive. And that was the analogy I had of this cancer, was it's not really alive, it just looks alive. So thankfully, about 60 days later, we went back in for another test, and I'll never forget, it was mid-June. We were going to a Nationals game that night, and I got the phone call that I had been healed. And just, you know, yeah. Thank God, really, truly. I mean, it was an act of God that I had been healed. And that night, we had a great picture taken of us, and it looks like these lights are shining down on me and my family from National Stadium. It was a great celebration. And I had 2.5 years of bliss, really, 2.5 years of being in, I hate this word, remission. I had my bucket list. I went to Ireland to play golf in, you know, the world's greatest golf courses. I went to the Masters. I you know, did lots of neat things, concerts and fun. And then in November 2011, I got words that I had hoped not to hear, which was, I'm sorry, but it's back. You know, they'd seen it, my blood counts dropping. They'd seen the tests going back, and then they officially said it's back. So I went back for basically another round of everything, where we almost died, had fevers and chills, and that worked for about 8 months. And then Skip didn't even know this until today, but when he invited me to come, I was in that remission. Well, in July, they went back, and again, the tests were going down, and they said it's back again. And I could feel it. You could feel your spleen. I could feel the lymph nodes. You know, I could just know something was wrong. So this time we went down to Texas and actually had a crazy experimental treatment done, and as of 2 weeks ago, I'm in remission again. I like to say healed. I'm healed again, and hopefully this one will stay for a long period of time. But you know, I think one of the things that, one of the reasons Skip wanted me to have here is just because of the fact that, you know, looking death in the face the way that we have, writing letters to your 10-year-old daughter saying, when you grow up, this is the type of woman I hope you are. It makes you realize that this time right here, this moment that we have, is all we're guaranteed. And in this moment, we need to do what we're called to do. You know, there's 3 things we often talk about: time, talent, and treasure. I will tell you that the greatest of these, the thing that's most valuable, is your time, without a doubt. I mean, how much money would you pay for another 30 days or a year of your life? There's no bank account that could hit it. So I don't have a bucket list today. You know, I'm trying to take advantage of each moment in time that I have, each day, each opportunity. You know, I guess one of the questions I leave people is, what are you going to do that's going to leave a lasting impression? What are you going to do to make a difference? What are you going to do to change the world? And I know that's why you're all here today, because you all have come together around a specific mission that's important in diversity in the workforce in all of our places. Joni Eareckson-Tada, who's a woman, and she's also disabled, has a quote that talks about having faith in small things can have great repercussions. And think about this, if you light a match in a dark room, it'll fill up the whole room with lightness. So that's hopefully my challenge to you. I thank you for your time and your attendance tonight. I just appreciate the opportunity.